Timothy Schneider talks about the need not to obey in advance. Like, don't anticipate what you think is going to come, and in advance of that, give up. And I think we saw that just in spades in the first, whatever, 6 months of the administration, where whether it was law firms or foundations or corporations, I mean, all these entities were like, huh, like we saw what they did to the academic institutions. I don't want to get called before Congress, to have that kind of a hearing. And so, let's get out of the way. Let's purge our website of any language around DEI or climate. Let's instruct our grantees not to use any of that language in their grant proposals or any of this. I mean, there's just a whole line of things that then comes from that, where you're basically in advance of any actual kind of confrontation or challenge, you're giving up before you even engage. That's one part or one set of reflections. The piece that really does get me angry is I feel that the whole point, right, is not to build your little organization or advance your fund or, have your foundation in perpetuity. The point is change and positive impact in the world. And so what I find galling is the folks, and I understand it, but what I still find galling is the folks who confuse the sustained nature of existence of their organization with change. And I'm kind of like, it doesn't fucking matter if your, foundation continues to exist and make, whatever, $25,000 grants for community organizing. If the whole, as you described it, the whole civic floor is dropping out from under, right? And I looked at, Trump's series of executive orders around climate, around renewables, around a host of things. And I'm like, okay, so you've had people who've spent 20, 30 years building up, these practices, this field, this orientation, and with one sign of a pen, the whole thing gets blown up by this one individual who decides that it's all a hoax, right? And it doesn't matter like that your foundation made XYZ grants. I mean, people have got to like not confuse kind of the sustainability of their entity with advancing the cause and the movement, right? And so if foundations have to pay an excise tax of whatever, like 10 or 15% in order to continue to exist because they've been challenged and there's new legislation that then removes their nonprofit status. Guess what, kids? Like you took your financial advantage when you created the institution to begin with. And the idea that that institution then should only be managed for financial return or its own sustainability over time is just, to my mind, just wrong. It's just not how we should be thinking about the purpose and function of philanthropic groups. And then I would extend that, as I did in that post, to the impact investing community and say, and really did irritate me, was over the months of, let's say, I don't know what, February until through the summer, I would go to events and people would come up to me and say, I'm running XYZ fund. We're moving toward closing our second round. Can you introduce me to people, who will fund my program? And I'd be like, well, what are you doing about fascism? What are you doing about authoritarianism? How are you showing up in this conversation and space? And you would go to these meetings, and there'd be like no reference to the broader context within which our work is now taking place. And I think that's, if nothing else, it's a shame. And if nothing else, it is a form of capitulation to kind of pretend that all you have to do is raise your next like 50 or $100 million fund, and that's enough, that's good enough. And then I think it's also self-deceiving because all he has to do, or all the administration has to do, all any administration has to do, whether Democrat or Republican, is simply eliminate or claw back funds or do whatever the hell they want. And you're just completely at their mercy because you have not kind of stood up and engaged and been a part of really saying, this is not okay, right? It's not okay in terms of the broader conversation. And yes, it's not okay in terms of what I say I care about, but a lot of this stuff, I feel like so much of this has been just a complete violation of everything that we said we cared about. And yet we're not doing anything to promote or advance it in the face of that. And so I think that's really what I'm kind of objecting to. I'm not even saying I know what we should do, but I'm saying that, yeah, we should do something and we should have voice. We can't, I understand there are, you know, conversations taking place on, you know, encrypted channels, and there's like back office meetings that people are having to try to figure out how to protect, you know, their grantees. And that's fine. That's a part of it. But without public voice, the momentum does not change. You know, the direction of public discussion and perspective does not change. And so somebody has got to stand up and at that right moment say, you know, shame on you, you know, as we had in the McCarthy era. This is a much, you know, a much broader piece. The McCarthy era was really one individual driving a phenomenal agenda that a number of people then signed on to. This is, I think, a broader kind of issue and consideration and challenge. But at some point, we've got to speak up. We have to find our voice. And I would argue that 9 months into this, it's about fucking time we found our voice.